start. Larsen, let's start with who you may or may not have tonight. Do you know at this point?
Yeah, got a little update. Zach will be back in for us tonight, in for Christensen, and Chinnikov will be in for Gauntz tonight.
Just the job that, I know you talked about it a little bit yesterday, but the job that the guys did on the back end while you're going through these injury issues had to be impressive to you and give you somewhat of a peace of mind, I would imagine, as well, knowing that you've got that kind of depth that you can rely on.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I ever have peace of mind, but these guys they were giving it, and that's all we can ask for these guys is that we're pushing them into areas and being more competitive at the puck and a hardness to your game and we've had a tough schedule here of quality of teams, not just the bulk of the games, but who we're playing also. So they've had to jump in with both feet there and take on some real tough opponents, and I thought they handled themselves very well.
It's a little bit off the board for a game day, but the response that Gavrikov had when he was handing out the Kepi the other night, he recognized the situation and gave it to Jay Christensen for scoring his first NHL goal. That's the kind of thing that I think we've talked about with Gavrikov that's kind of an intangible. But what that does for the room to recognize what just happened there and what it means, what did that say to you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see all that. I mean, you're telling me about it. I think it's great. I let the players kind of do their thing with that. So, but I think that's great. I mean, it's important. I think people understand, or the guys in the room understand what it's like to contribute and be part of something and be a young guy. And so that's a neat moment for them and for I put Gavi now in a leadership group. And I've had that conversation with him. He's elevated himself, and so to him to recognize that's great.
Lars, a big weekend for your club here at the back-to-back games. There's nobody in the room that played with Rick Nash, but how meaningful is this to them this weekend?
For our group in there? Yeah, I think it's a big moment for the organization, and for these guys to be here to witness it is. I've been part of a few of them, and I spoke on this yesterday. To stay in the game long enough in one spot and to be relevant enough for that amount of time, it's hard to do. It's really hard to be consistent and elevate your game every single night. And I know Rick comes in with high expectations as a number one overall pick, and he met them and exceeded them in a lot of ways and moved on. So for guys to see that, and now Rick being part of the fabric here of the organization, I think it's awesome, because the more Rick's a very quiet guy. He doesn't say a lot. I'm sure he probably hates this kind of attention that he's going to be receiving. But it's due. I think he's earned it, and I love it for him and his family. But when you do get to sit with Rick one-on-one and talk about the game, you can feel his passion. You can feel his love for the city. You can feel he's in it for the right reasons. And I love that. He's not here to garner spotlight. He's a very under-the-radar type guy. But when he speaks, you listen, because he's got a lot of real great insight on the game, and especially the roles he played and how he entered the league and how he had to grow and change some things. Talked about his Olympic experience where he went to a role player, basically a checker, and first overall guys don't do that, right? But he had to, and so there's just so much there that our guys can learn from a man like that, and he's got a great humility about him, which I love. It's not every day you see a guy that was that good at what he did and be that humble about it. So I'm thrilled for him, and I think it's going to be a great night for everybody.
Different topic. Who did you say that Chinnikov goes in for?
Gauntz.
And what do you need to see from Chinnikov, or what do you want to see from him that led to him being out for
that game that he played in Chicago? I talked to him about that should be your standard. I just felt like he was attacking the game. He's using his legs. Chinny's a really smart player, and usually with guys at his age, you're trying to teach all these small intangibles of the defensive side of the puck and awareness. And he's a really sharp player as far as structural, and he understands it and grasps it and applies it really well. Now it's for him, now that I know that about him, and he's got trust from me. I trust him in a lot of situations. He's got the legs to attack the game. He's got the shot to be dangerous, and he's got to trust his skill a bit. Now, when and where to use that's something he'll figure out. And he's still figuring out the small ice game too. because he played in the big ice forever. So, but using his legs and because he's a solid kid too. I want him to be aggressive, assertive, competitive, all those things. So he's got a bright future, and I just want him, consistency. I want him to bring that consistency in the game and of those intangibles, and then see where it goes.
You're going to give me crap, but I'm just going to confirm Elvis and that, since you didn't mention any changes earlier.
Yes, Elvis and that.
Corpy went through a lot of practice yesterday. Do you get a sense he's at least getting close, though? Do you like?
He's getting closer. And I think every day they're ramping it up. I'll find out today where he's at and kind of a timeline here soon. Yeah, you're good.
Brad, your team's going through a playoff. Actually, a lot of guys going through it maybe for the first time. Just how beneficial will that be for them to go through the rigors and the experience of a playoff push like that, and what can they learn from it?
Well, it's the longer you're in it, the more you just learn how hard it is. And you can talk about it till you're blue in the face, but you have to witness and feel it, those situations. It's just like playoffs until you get in it and feel the energy of the crowd and the pressures and the different things that come with it. It doesn't really matter because you gotta get in those skates and skate in it, right? So, for us, we've clawed ourselves back into the conversation of playoffs, which is good. We got a long ways to go, a lot of wins and a tough schedule. So it's just important that we stay focused on each and every game here and try and just pour it all into that game, try and get the 2 points and move on to the next day. And we've done it through injuries and through goaltending injuries, and so it's a positive sign that the guys have been able to dig a little bit deeper and do it as a group here. And like I said, I think the next phase for this group is, can we do it again? We've had a good stretch, but you can't sit there and pat yourself in the back. As soon as you do that, you lose 3 or 4 in a row. So game by game here, and they're not going to be easy, but dig in and see where we can get to.
Just real quick, is Chinnikov in for Gauntz? Is that an injury situation or is that a coaching situation?
He left the last game there. He was a little bit shaken up, so he's more of a day-to-day thing, but I want to get Chinny back in also.